Thanks for joining us at Right On Replicas, where we bring you the best scale model kit reviews on the planet. This review covers the Funnier Farmer 63 Tempest AWB 125 scale AMT Model King Kit, number 21452P. This is skill level 2 for ages 10 and up in 1/25th scale, and most people think of this kit as a replica of the Arnie Beswick Tameless Tiger. And while there's a lot of similarities, there's enough difference to indicate that this is its own identity. Let me take you back. In the 60s, when the kit was first issued, AMT did some art boxes that didn't have any graphics on the box tops, just artwork. This was one of those kits in a generic style altered wheelbase car that was typical of the period, but not really based on a specific car. Model King re-released this version of the AMT 63 altered wheelbase Pontiac Tempest kit in 2004 to bring back the idea and kind of update it as a sort of tribute to the original kit. In the box you get 86 parts molded in white, chrome, clear, and clear red. There's water slide decals and a two-sided sheet of instructions. While more basic kit from the 60s, it is still really nice looking when completed, but let's not be fooling ourselves. This is an old design and it's going to take a little extra work. Here are the decals for this kit. As you can see, they're very colorful and the registry is good. I strongly recommend using some decal setting solution to make it fit those contours, but as always, use the manufacturer's safety and use guidelines when using any of the products mentioned here in the review for your own protection. For most of the construction, I use Model Master liquid cement and sometimes a slow setting tube glue, but other adhesives are used too for strength like super glue and white glue for clear parts. Mostly the paints are Tamiya acrylic bottle paints that are shot through an airbrush, or rattle can paints that can be used for things like primers. This build starts with the motor. Assemble the block and heads and paint the motor Pontiac blue with an aluminum transmission. The headers are assembled and painted white. Paint the starter black and gold, and the injector manifolds are aluminum. I discarded the distributor because I'm going to use a wire distributor of my own. So install the intake, injector manifolds, and stacks onto the motor's top. Add the valve covers and 2 breathers to each valve cover. Then add the motor front and fuel pump end. Now add the oil pan and the starter. I used a pre-wired distributor and coil for my kit that I found online at Morgan Automotive Detail, and I find that I had to first drill out the hole for the shaft and install it with some super glue, and then drill out the locations on the heads. Next, just cut a small part of black wire for the boots and slide it onto each wire, then match up the wires to a wiring diagram, which you can find anywhere on the net, and then slide each wire into place and super glue the wires there. Add the coil to the center wire and cut it to fit setting on the motor. The headers are flat white, and at this time you can install both the left side header and the right side header to the engine and let that dry. Now pull these parts out for the interior assembly, and on the bottom circled in red here you'll notice the script. You might want to remove that and sand it smooth. Then paint the interior tub aluminum, the roll bars and the seat flat black, and highlight the seat belts with red and aluminum buckles. Now the shifter handle is black, and install the seat and the shifter. Assemble and install the roll bars. With these parts, paint the dash and the wheel flat black by detailing the instruments because there are no decals. Then the wheel has aluminum spokes, and install the dash and the wheel. Get the parts out for the chassis to prepare it for paint. The chassis has a small trademark that needs to be sanded away. The red circle shows that. Paint the chassis aluminum with flat black, and the front frame is flat black. Assemble the rear suspension and paint that flat black. Then the drive shaft is steel colored. Assemble it in this order. Install the motor, add the interior, add the front frame rails, then insert the drive shaft and install the rear suspension in place. Assemble and install the front suspension. Now note, on the front suspension, no matter which way I put the leaf springs, I couldn't get the holes to line up. So if you want to do that properly, you'll need to drill a small hole there to mount that straight axle. One indication of how old the kit is that you'll find that the tires are plastic styrene in halves. So assemble the tires and paint them with some rubber color. I use a Tamiya XF85. And the rear ring for the back rims is aluminum. Insert the front rims into their respective tires and add the rear rims. The fronts are thinner than the rears. Now you can go ahead and install the tires and mount the large tires on the rear, the slicks, and the smaller ones on the front. You'll now have a rolling chassis to build upon, and that completes the steps up to this point. Now we can start working on the body. It is just a one-piece unit. It's molded separately, except there is a separate hood. Now you have to check the body and the hood closely for blemishes and mold issues. Now the red circles here will indicate the sink marks because this was originally what we called a promotional screw body kit, and the mounts are still in the trunk. So I use a little putty to fill these in and then sand them smooth along with any blemishes you find on the body. Now wet sand the body and the hood and wash the parts to find any other blemishes. Use a good quality primer and thoroughly coat the inside and the outside of the body and the hood. Once the primer has cured, wet sand the entire body and wash the parts again, looking for any more blemishes. If you find any, you'll have to correct those and then add another light coat of primer. If the parts are correct though, paint your body color at this time. In this case I used a DuPont automotive paint called Chrysler Sublime Green with a gold pearl shimmer over that. Now get out the decals, and they're pretty good quality, but you're going to need plenty of warm water to position, especially the larger ones. I always start with the large ones first. I'll place them into the location and then kind of use a soft cloth to squeeze any air trapped underneath them for getting the bubbles out. Now I strongly suggest that you use a decal setting solution like Microscale Industries products. Let the decals dry overnight and then clear coat your body to seal them in and give it that bright shine. An optional item that I like that really helps appearance is called foiling, and we're going to add some foil to the trim areas around the car that would have appeared as chrome trim on the real one, and you just put it on like tape and then cut off the excess with a sharp hobby knife. Another additional enhancement is to use some Pledge Floor Care wax by dipping the window glass into it and then letting it wick off dry. After it's dried, then you just position the windows into the body shell using some white glue or some clear contact cement. For the license plates, to personalize my display, I decided to print out my logo with a color printer on some plain paper and then use a piece of clear cellophane tape to cover up the top, and then cut it out and use that for the license tags. For the front end assembly, peel out these parts and paint the grille with a 50-50 wash of thinner and flat black paint. Install the grille, bumper, and tag, and then assemble the fuel cell and attach that to the grille. For the rear end assembly, these parts will be used, so install the bumper with the license tag, the rear trim, and the tail lights. Paint the chute flat black and add that to the trunk. The body for this car is meant to be removed so that you can display the interior and show off that gargantuan engine in the engine bay. So go ahead and finish her up like that. Hard to believe, but the design for this mold is probably half a century old. But these great old kits come back for us to enjoy again, and with a little extra work they can make great shelf models. Now for this particular kit, there's not much detail, but the body looks pretty good. And the finish isn't perfect, and you'll have to do some fitting and a lot of test fitting and repair. But it's got screw bottom attachment points, so it's just really old. The motor's not real functional, but it was a fun build and a nostalgic run down the old quarter-mile strip. But for today's builders, the lack of details would disappoint them. Nonetheless, if you add the right color and you just want to go crazy, this is going to be a nice looking shelf sitter, and it'll get a lot of attention because you don't see this subject anymore being produced. So go ahead and have some fun with it and put her on your shelf for a proud display. We hope you like this premium quality step-by-step review, and so that you don't miss any more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. But you can find us on Facebook and also at our website, www.rightonreplicas.com. Thanks!